All right, I'd like to call the March meeting of the Public Safety Committee to order. Could I have an approval of last month's minutes? A motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Second. Okay, there's a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is there anybody here for privilege of the floor? Privilege of the floor? If not, we'll close privilege of the floor. Number 1, proposed resolution, confirm appointments, Traffic Safety Board.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Sheriff Jim Quattrone. This resolution is to appointments of our Traffic Safety Board, Dan Ingrayo, who's the Chief of Police in Town of Ellicott, Chris Witkowski, the Chief of Police in the City of Dunkirk, and Lisa Vanstrom, Chautauqua County Legislature. The first two are replacing chiefs that retired, and they're coming on in their place. And Ms. Vanstrom has been on our Traffic Safety Board for as long as I've been around and probably longer, but had not been reappointed just because I thought she was on there as by virtue of being a county legislature, didn't realize she needed to be appointed. So when I realized that, we took the proper steps.
Jim, everybody consented to be on the board, I assume?
Yes, each of them also filled out a document for the county executive. I can't remember the title of that document, but
Doesn't matter.
no.
Okay, committee, any questions on this? These are appointments, some of them reappointments, or one reappointment. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks, Jim. Okay, next we have amend the 2025 budget for the district attorney. Thanks, Jason.
Sam Zafuto, Deputy Director of Finance.
Good afternoon, Jason Schmidt, District Attorney.
Go ahead, guys.
All right, so this resolution is to amend the 2025 budget for the District Attorney's Office. There are kind of two phases in this. One is a small piece for the purchase of some Surface Pro and computer software that is grant funded. The second portion is a change to the 2025 budget using local share, and this is a transfer of an employee that was housed at the jail initially, and now it's will be under the district attorney's office as we've been working through the backfill on all of this. So it's an existing employee just being transferred at this time to the DA's office. The reason we're using local share, those of you who may remember through the budget hearing, there was at the end of it, some savings, and part of the idea possibly would be entertaining an option from the district attorney's office for use of those funds, and that is what this resolution is for. It was also an employee under the IT department, so we've been working through 3 separate departments to kind of bring this to fruition.
Okay. Yeah, this came up last year. Sam, at least the discussion part did. Okay. Committee, questions of Jason or Sam?
No.
Pretty self-explanatory.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Well, thank you.
I had a PowerPoint presentation.
Next time.
We can watch it.
Not today. And you're out of here by 5 after. Anytime.
Not doing this week. Oh, you're doing this.
Okay, next we have reallocating salary grade for resource assistant, crime analyst.
Mr. Chairman, Jim Quattrone, Chautauqua County Sheriff. This resolution is a reallocation, moving our crime analyst title, actually it's a official title is resource assistant, in parentheses, crime analyst, from a grade 12 to a grade 17. This is after a recommendation from Human Resources and Civil Service, and then an evaluation by the reallocation committee, which includes the HR director, county executive, and the CSEA 6300 president.
Okay, committee questions of Jim on this one?
Sure, if it was based on workload or skill level or,
Workload and skill level. So we've, as I explained to the chairman earlier, off record, but she had taken the civil service test for the next grade. But in the meantime, she also accepted a 7-hour-a-week position for a local police agency as some extra income for her. That took her off the civil service list, so we weren't able to promote her based on the civil service. She takes care of our threat assessment management team, doing the analysis, which is a team that really helps analyze and prevent acts of violence. She works with our gun-involved violence elimination team, and then our investigators, as well as our normal patrol. So she's probably on her point, she's probably being overworked, but she's very gracious and does everything that is asked from her from many. And she, quite honestly, helps out other police agencies in the county as well, who just maybe not be large enough to have a crime analyst.
because it's not typical to usually go up 5 grade levels at once, is it?
I don't know. Haven't asked for any of this, but I'm looking at the HR director and she's shaking her head that it is typical.
Okay.
So
Will this help with retention since she was looking for other work?
I am hoping so. And after we asked for reallocation, I'm on the board for the Erie County Crime Analysis Center, which covers Chautauqua County. In our last board meeting, the state announced that they are moving. They used to be employed by county. Now they're going to be employed by the state. And they openly informed us that they were going to be coming looking for our analyst. So I'm hoping she decides to stay around here. Thankfully, her family has roots here, that she wants to stay in Chautauqua County. So
Great,
Yeah.
thanks.
you're,
So the state would be coming after her for employment?
yes, yes.
And possibly moving her somewhere else?
That I can't answer. I would assume that would be the case. The Erie County Crime Analysis Center has been a wonderful partner with us. We've been partners with them for years. And they've actually, quote unquote, have a desk up there for her. So when she needs some training or some assistance with something, she came fresh out of college. And when she started at the sheriff's office, quite frankly, I had no idea how to use a crime analyst. So we've been working with the Erie County crime analyst, and we have two. Our unsolved case investigators came from larger agencies that work with crime analysts for years, so they kind of help train her and get as far as how we can use her services.
Tom, just for information, in some other departments, it's not unusual to go up 2 or 3 grades. 5 is a little higher, but this is specific to the sheriff's department. I did talk to Human Resources and the sheriff, and they both felt that this increase to grade 17 was justified.
Okay, is that justified for the individual? Like if you didn't retain this employee and you brought someone else new, would they come in at the new grade level or would they come in at the old grade level?
I guess they would.
Would it depend on the qualifications?
I believe if they came in as the resource assistant, parentheses crime analyst, they would come in at grade 17.
A new one would, if this one did leave. I would presume they'd come in at grade 17. And hopefully they'd have the experience or the schooling or whatever to justify a grade 17.
Yes, and we would be looking for the same qualifications. And part of that reason being, again, she's well qualified. Thankfully, it was we were able to hire her fresh out of college before somebody else grabbed her. And like I said, she has roots here in Chautauqua County, grew up here, went to school here, and
Hopefully she'll stay.
I believe she will, but she is engaged, so
Good.
I'm not sure.
All right. Committee, any other questions on this resolution?
Was this budgeted And did it go through the budget process
Yes.
already?
Yes,
Okay, so it's no impact on the 2025 budget?
that is correct. And her salary currently is being paid for by the ShawTech grant. That's not the official name for it, but our ShawTech program is funded by state grant. And so we have that for at least the next 2 years.
Even at this elevated level?
Correct.
Okay, committee, any other questions on this resolution? Questions of Jim? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, folks, next we have, thanks, Jim. We have resolution, this is under other. You have it on your desks. The title is Opposition to Executive Order 47.3 regarding New York State Corrections employees and authorize necessary steps to protect the county's interests. Okay, you just got this now, so take a minute or two to peruse this, and then we'll discuss this. You all set?
Yeah.
All right, committee, what this resolution does is it's in opposition to the governor's executive order, which prohibits counties from hiring terminated New York State Corrections employees. Okay, so this resolution would be in opposition to the governor's order. Any discussion?
Why? I mean,
What?
why are they barring us from hiring terminated?
I thought it related to just state jobs.
I'm sorry.
I thought her rule was just on state jobs. It's not?
I don't think so. I think it's, yeah, I believe so.
That's ridiculous.
County Executive Wendell.
County Executive PJ Wendell. So just a little bit of history behind this. I was on the phone with Jackie Bray, who's oversees the Department of Corrections as the Director of Homeland Security Emergency Services. I've been speaking with our COs at Lakeview Shock. There were several requests made. The statement from the governor is that they participated in an illegal strike, therefore they committed misconduct. So the legal position, as I'm told, is she is holding them accountable for misconduct, therefore you can't hire. The position was in state jobs. Now the governor has been quoted saying they will never work in New York State again, but that's also prohibited them from working in any municipality in New York State. Not only in any municipality, if we wanted to hire them as a secretary, as a bookkeeper, a shopkeeper, a driver, a truck driver, equipment operator in Chautauqua County, we are not allowed, according to the governor. Now, there is a time frame. Now, we are not allowed to ask age, a person's sex, anything like that, but you are supposed to ask them, were you employed by the DOCCS, and I forget the dates of February 10th through February 17th through March 10th, I think is when it. And they're supposed to answer that. But we can't ask any questions. Now, the position, NISAC has taken a position on this. I take it back. NISAC has asked that to be reconsidered from the governor, but we're in a waiting period right now. So this is barring us from hiring. And we have had applicants, and not in corrections. The sheriff might be able to give you more information on that. We have had people apply for equipment operators, working with DPF. I actually, we have people that have applied across different departments throughout Chautauqua County. But according to this, because of their participation in what the governor said is an illegal strike, they are going to prohibit them from being employed by any New York State municipality.
PJ, I actually had a call from a corrections officer at Lakeview who has 18 years in, and he asked if there was anything in the county. I said, well, I'm going to have to clarify that before I can get back to you. But essentially, those folks are being blacklisted.
Yeah. You're supposed to take their name, send that to the Office of DOCCS, and then they will inform you of the person's status.
So if they want a job, any kind of public service job in New York State, they're out of luck.
According to the way this reads right now.
Gotcha.
It's
And
been
they-
asked, it's asked.
They
to you.
haven't been convicted of a crime. It's just, it's ridiculous.
Jim, do you want to add anything?
I do want to
that?
add, just,
Okay.
I think there's a lot of confusion. We've met with the Deputy Secretary of Public Safety / Criminal Justice, who is like the governor's right-hand person with criminal justice. Also have had communication with the governor's secretary. Now, I'm not exactly sure, it's like administrative assistant or what role. She sent an email to Sheriff Craig Apple outlining it. The problem is they differ. And when we met with them yesterday, Deputy Secretary Solar, he was going to be meeting with the governor at 2 yesterday. We haven't heard back from him yet. But what was initially told to us by the secretary to the governor is we would not be able to hire any of the corrections officers who were terminated, and because they were going to be decertified, and we weren't allowed to hire them until after the executive order was lifted, and then we would be able to hire and send them to the peace officer training. That came from the secretary, the governor. From the deputy secretary of criminal justice, he stated that the ruling was that they would be permanently decertified. And decertified as peace officers, but he also said if we send them through our police academy, they could be certified as police officers. So there's a lot of confusion going on with this right now. But we have one person that we have been going through the process right now. He was not terminated, but again, that's another one of those gray areas. He was resigning today because he's been out on paternity leave and plans to, because of all that's going on, didn't want to return back to work with an infant at home, and thinking that, because he's not the Lakeview Shock, but another person, I don't want to mention that name,
Yeah.
but he was afraid that he was going to would have to stay out there because of the shortage of manpower. And so he was going to resign regardless of what happens. The issue is there's been a number of people who were out on medical leave prior to the strike and throughout the strike, and they also were given termination papers. So he was not, but what we have to do is with a decertification, with peace officers, police officers, is we are supposed to check. We have a list that's published by DCJS, and we can look up anybody that's been decertified. Problem is with 2,000 people being decertified, it's going to take a while to get through the system. So really to hire anybody, well, we can check with docs. Quite frankly, I'm not real comfortable with checking with docs, or just because there's so much confusion. So they're evaluating. Deputy Secretary Solar did say that the list is changing on a regular basis because some that they thought they were going to decertify are not going to be decertified because they can see that it was a mistake because they were out on medical. So they're trying to sort that out. It's going to be a little while. We're hoping that the executive order would be lifted at the end of the 30 days, but it does sound like it'll be renewed. just while they're trying to sort out what's going on with that. So,
Do we have an idea how many people are available in our county?
I
How many did?
roughly, I gotta say roughly, we've received 16 applicants from that are coming from Department of Corrections. Not all of them. I don't. I'm not even sure if any of them were terminated. Many of them are currently working or have resigned or plan to resign if they get hired. We are fortunate in Chautauqua County, and I always credit the legislature in our county for supporting our corrections officers. We are fully staffed full-time, and we have 1 or 2 part-time positions, one that we're trying to hire from this gentleman from the Department of Corrections. So I know there are some counties that they're hiring like 82 coming from docs. So
So how does this end? I mean, the people that were from misconduct were let go. Will they ever get their jobs back? Does this go to a judge, arbitration? How does this end? And where does it go? How do you decide who's right?
I would imagine that there'll be some litigation going on, and again, Deputy Secretary Soller also anticipates that through our conversation. I will say, I'm not sure. I think.
That's understandable.
I think they're very committed. The governor in this again, come from the Deputy Secretary, is not ready to give in any of this.
Well, this has never happened before either, has it?
No.
Yeah, see, New York State
Wow.
has a Taylor law which prohibits any municipal employee from striking teachers, police officers, fire, garbage. So in essence, the only state in the union, to my knowledge, that has this law. So the position that was taken from the very beginning in the conversations I had with staff in Albany was they violated the law, county executive. My comment was they did because of what they felt was their rights. Now, that's where the governor, like I said, it's still a violation of the law. You heard, legislator Larson stand up. You can't look away and say that we understand they violated the law. But I think there's a lot of other pieces that really aren't known. I can't get into that, but again, that's where the governor's taking it. They did violate the law. And I can see the position is if they bend on one, are they going to bend on others? What will this open as far as Pandora's box? But I think you really have to dig in, and this is the one question I've asked, and from my position as county executive, differing from the sheriff, is that there was still no effort made to sit down and go out and find out what the problems were. We're looking at, a generalization. What was different here in Chautauqua County is different than Erie County, is different than Orange County, it's different than Clinton County. So, 38 different prisons across the state, and there were, as we were told originally, there were 4 regions. It's based on the 4 regions of their union. And 4 different reasons for this. It wasn't. It was for the working conditions. The biggest premise, and I've asked for the governor, I said this again with her director of dishes, suspending the HALT Act and sending it back to the legislature and asking them to redo it, because the amount of crime that's gone on against the guards and against other inmates is astronomical. You have guards where their fingertips are bitten off, it can't be sewn back on, chunks bitten out of their hand. That's cannibalism. But that happens, you spend 3 days in isolation in S block, and then you're back into the regular population. Prior to the HALT Act, they would be in S block for 60 days, 90 days, and maybe other charges brought up. Right. Yeah. So that's been taken away. That was the premise. I have been urged several times from people I talked to, the COs, when I talked, I stopped there before the last legislature meeting. It's not about money for them. It's about the safe working conditions. So that's been the focus.
Yeah.
But for us at the county, as the sheriff said, they're focusing on decertified. Even if they're decertified, according to the executive order now, we can't hire them in the county for any position. We would have to, on the application, we would have to ask them, and if they say they were, we would have to send that name to docs. And we've had an instance where I know one of the applicants here in the county was on vacation. They were mandated to come back from vacation, and they said, if you do not come back, you will be AWOL from the time your vacation started. So there was a lot of challenges through this across the board. So again, there's a lot of issues. There's, as the sheriff said, they're fully staffed. Other counties aren't. The need to hire is extreme.
The National Guard are no longer in there, are they?
Yes, they are.
They
Because I had
still,
a friend that came home, so I just thought they were all done.
Some, as I'm told right now, the National Guard is not on active duty assignment. So if they are required to return to work, they're leaving and returning to work. It's a unique situation that's happening right now.
in the National Guard, so I think some of their normal duty has expired, but National Guard can also volunteer for additional duty, and some of them have done that, so they're staying in the prisons. And the state is planning on offering some of them employment, especially for those who are unemployed outside of the Guard or underemployed, so that's how they're going to try to staff that. I did want to go on the record, though, just to make sure. Deputy Secretary Soller has met with us on a couple of occasions and spent hours with us working through this. So, that is appreciated, and he's trying to understand and communicate back and forth with the governor and her staff. So, it can be frustrating, but he's been willing to meet with us, and we have a seat at the table with him, so we appreciate that.
He's trying to help interpret some of this stuff for us.
Interpret, and he's, I believe, is very knowledgeable in what he does, and so he is trying to come up with solutions. I think, like anything, I don't think there'll always be solutions we're going to agree 100% on, but we have to meet midway, and I think likewise, across the board, people have to have some give and take.
Yeah.
Are we basically saying that we would like to be able to hire and govern over those decisions ourselves and not follow the executive order by the governor? Is that what we're saying?
Well, right now, the governor's in violation of home rule. We have the ability to judge who we want to hire, when we want to hire, except for now, the governor's saying that she is now taking that into the executive order. We do not have that authority.
Okay.
So as county executives, that's our position.
It sounds heavy-handed to me, but I just want to make sure we're all clear that when they walked off the job, they jeopardized public safety, so you have to take that into consideration. I think when we're like, just can't be carte blanche, they all walk out and get county jobs. Doesn't seem quite right when they put the county's people at risk. Were we ever at risk when they walked off the job?
I'm not certain that we were at risk. I don't know the inner workings of Lakeview, so I can't answer that for
Well,
sure.
there's a reason why there was a halt. There was the Taylor Law, was to protect the public. So that's like my only hinge pin here when we are debating it. It's like, well, they did kind of walk off the job. They are key.
I would agree with that, and I'm not a lawyer, but my interpretation of the Taylor Law is it prevents the strikes, but it also is to protect the labor. And I would contend that as a result of the enactment of the HALT Act, it changed the labor conditions in the prisons. They have been, for at least a couple of years, when I say they, the corrections officers and sergeants have been beating the drum saying, we need this changed. I would also contend, I believe that the governor agrees that some of the HALT Act needs to be changed.
I think everybody does. Right?
Yeah, in meeting some resistance. And it, I think like so many laws and regulations, it's because things have been abused, and we have to kind of look at what happens and how any law or ruling impacts the boots on the ground. And again, I think, just as a side note, the HALT Act has made it more dangerous, not only for the guards and COs, but for the inmates that are in there as well.
Yeah.
So.
Is there
Well-
is there anybody talking to the union and the union's contact with the state why they didn't act sooner before this happened? I mean, they could have taken some actions to prevent this, it would seem like.
I would agree with you. I believe I don't know what the union, for the state COs has been doing. I do know that I was at some events in the past where the union was very involved in that, union leadership, as well as the corrections officers. So I would say that they've been working hard, trying to get things changed. So I don't condone violating the law, but I also, and I think,
Would hope not.
yeah, I believe that most of these COs who went out on strike were at their tipping point and realized that, you know what, I may lose my job, but I would rather lose my job than lose my life and my family. So,
Well, and Jim, besides the HALT Act, we had somebody come to the last the last legislative meeting and talk about 24 and 32-hour shifts. I mean,
I know the
that's
person
just-
that was speaking about that.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's just incredible. So, I mean, to me, that's kind of violation of the work rules for New York State too. And I think in the past, there have been public employee strikes, as I recall. And I think what happened before is, because it's a 2-day penalty for every day that you strike, I think in those instances, the state allowed those people to use sick time. I mean, I'd have to research it, but I think that was what was afforded to these other strikers, which is not the case here with the corrections officer. I think the governor's office is coming down excessively harsh on these corrections officers.
I think that's what's unique about this is, you know, they're asking for a time period. So if you resigned, what's that? If you go back to work, how is that dealt with? So if I resign, I'm now blacklisted if I went back to work and I participated in the same event. So there's a lot of questions that people have with this.
And
there
that's
is no
not even
correct-
addressing the people that were on sick leave when the strike, or on vacation, like, well, either you were.
Sick leave, medical
Jim
leave. There were
mentioned.
people asked to be come back when they were on medical leave, people on sick leave.
I know one of them.
Yeah, and to the point, yes, there are, you know, we've had, our mental hygiene team has been working at Lakeview, doing some debriefs with individuals, and yes, they're now bunking in the prison. They're an employee, but they aren't, some are not able to, maybe a choice of their choice to stay and work, but many of them are there for, you know, longer durations, and it's
Right.
not, you know, if you're working a 16-hour shift and you have time to go home, you know, maybe it's a half hour, 45-minute ride home, and then you sleep however long, and then you're back another, you know, you're losing maybe an hour or two in the commute, so you have 4 or 6 hours at home, and it's a tough situation. But I wish, at some point, like the sheriff said, I wish this would have been dealt with at some point prior to this. And what's happening right now, and to Mr. Carl's question, is they're now saying 70 is 100. So if you're at 70% staffing, you're really at 100% staffing. So they are not decreasing the number of incarcerated individuals in Lakeview, but they will say that you're fully staffed at, one of the numbers, I believe it was, they're at 311 now, and there's an acronym, they use BIBS, I forget the acronym, but they want to lower that down to the 200s. Well, you're lowering the number of men and women required to work, but you're not lowering the thing. In Attica,
Even more of a safety issue.
Right, in Attica, I think the numbers, their numbers are 600, and they're a little over 600 plus, and now I think their staffing levels are under 300. So you're looking at half of their required staffing levels, and Attica's a much different position than Lakeview Shock.
Mr. Chair, as I understand, the resolution came in, I didn't see it, I just wanted to speak about it. But as I understand the resolution, are we asking the governor to change and allow the counties to at least make an evaluation if they are able to hire these people who've been terminated or released or resigned?
Yeah, Jim, it's in opposition to her executive order, okay, it essentially suspends municipal home rule authority, okay, where we could have hired these people, but she's overruling municipal home rule. Okay, so this resolution is in opposition
Of
to that.
So not necessarily taking a stance on the strike?
I mean, I think all of us have our own ideas and sympathies, but no, we're not taking a position on that.
Okay.
This is in regard to her executive order,
Okay, thank you.
47.3.
The second resolve says that the county executive and county law department are hereby authorized and empowered to take any necessary steps to protect the county's interests relating to its home rule powers and hiring authority. What does that mean exactly?
There are counties across New York State that are filing a lawsuit against the governor, saying they're
So-
violating home rule. We haven't gone down that avenue yet. It's an opportunity. We do have a resolution provided by Oneida County. They are pursuing that matter
So, yeah.
in a lawsuit, but we're going to wait and see.
It doesn't mean that we just hire people if we
Correct.
want to. It means we take the necessary steps.
We'll take the necessary steps.
Possibly joining up. Yeah, okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to point out that Legislator Bankowski approached me when he heard of the lawsuit that Oneida County was pursuing and asked if he could submit a late resolution because had missed pre-file at that point. And he has worked with the counsel to the legislature in preparing this resolution. So this resolution has certainly had more than adequate legal review. And it is brought to us late, but it has certainly received more than adequate legal review as any other resolution that we would expect.
It's timely.
This resolution.
This resolution that you have in front of you, yes.
Thanks, Jeff.
I get two comments and one question, if I may.
Go ahead.
First comment, are our COs safe? Does the HALT Act affect us locally here?
Yes, the HALT Act impacts every jail and prison in the state. We don't have, and one of the things with the HALT Act was to eliminate solitary confinement. We don't have solitary confinement. But where it impacts our biggest issues are the amount of discipline. 15 days in a 60-day period is all they can get. So again, there's not really anything that can be done. Just, so you get it. Many of our incarcerated individuals are in there really trying to better themselves. Not all, and some of them are. Yeah, one of my mentors said 90 to 95% of the people who are incarcerated are not bad people. They've made bad choices. The other 5 to 10%, they need to be incarcerated and maybe never get out. And I tend to agree with him. And it's unfortunately that a small percentage of incarcerated individuals can cause so much damage and destruction and pain. And quite frankly, we have inmates that are being attacked by others. And there's very little. We also have in Chautauqua County, we have the support of our district attorney who will prosecute cases. It's my belief that when we have crimes that are committed within the jail, that they should be arrested and prosecuted. And a lot of the district attorneys will not do that because they just said, well, what else are they going to get? But I believe that we need to send that message that it's not going to be tolerated. So,
My question is, this prohibits us from employing these individuals, but are we allowed to hire, and aside from this, are we allowed to hire people with criminal backgrounds, misdemeanors,
Yes.
felonies?
It-
We're
it just-
allowed,
We
so we are
cannot
allowed.
ask that question.
We can't answer, but in this particular case,
You're
these
supposed to.
people haven't been convicted of a crime,
That's where.
but we are supposed to ask them where they were.
That's where the problem of this executive order comes into play. Right, we're circumventing civil service laws and employment laws because of, that's where, as it said, it's pretty heavy-handed as to how it's coming,
It
but
is.
there's very little clarity.
we do, before we employ somebody as a corrections officer or police officer, we do a criminal history check on them.
I'm sure,
And-
especially in your case.
Yes, and
absolutely,
we're able to do that,
But as
Yep.
a DPW.
Yeah.
Or the health
DP
department.
But
Or
we-
health department, I mean, obviously, we probably do criminal background, I don't know, but.
And a misdemeanor arrest does not prohibit, depending on what
No,
the charge
my
is. so
point
we
is
can-
that we can hire people because we want to hire them. We're not prohibited from hiring them, but now we're being prohibited from hiring people.
In this case.
And in this particular case, is a punitive, it's because it's punitive. My comment is that those CEOs may have violated the Taylor Act. They probably did. But now the governor is violating our home rule. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
wholeheartedly in favor of this. I'll be voting for it, so.
Okay. Committee, any other questions of the county executive or the sheriff? Okay, if not, we will vote on this resolution. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We're adjourned. Thank you.